The mountains were big and white. They looked like giant scoops of vanilla ice cream. Snow covered everything, from the tall pine trees to the small, quiet rocks. The air was cold and clean, and it made your breath look like a little cloud. This was the world Maya loved. She was traveling through the mountains on her wooden sled. The sled was old, but it was strong. It glided over the snow, making a soft whooshing sound that was like a secret whisper between her and the quiet land around them. Maya was not alone on her journey. She had her best friend with her, and his name was Roko. Roko was a husky, a very special kind of dog. His fur was as white as the snow, with patches of soft grey around his bright blue eyes. Those eyes were like two small pieces of the summer sky, full of life and happiness. He pulled the sled with all his might, his paws making little prints in the fresh snow. He was strong and happy, and he loved pulling the sled for Maya more than anything else in the world. They traveled for a long time, moving deeper into the beautiful, silent mountains. The sun was a pale circle in the sky, watching over them. Maya hummed a little song, a tune her grandmother used to sing. Roko's ears twitched back and forth, listening to her voice and to the sounds of the winter forest. He was always alert, always watching. He was not just her friend, he was her guardian, her protector. Their bond was a quiet and powerful thing, a friendship that needed no words to be understood, felt deeply in the heart. Maya had packed warm blankets and a flask of hot soup on the sled. She planned to stop near a frozen lake for lunch. She imagined sitting on a blanket with Roko, sharing some food and watching the winter birds. The thought made her smile. She felt safe with Roko. He was brave and loyal, and she knew that as long as they were together, everything would be all right. The world felt big, but their friendship felt even bigger, a warm light in the middle of all the cold snow. Suddenly, the world began to change. The pale sun disappeared behind a thick wall of grey clouds that moved in very quickly. The wind started to blow, and it was not a gentle breeze. It was a loud, howling wind that whistled through the pine trees and pushed against them. The sky grew dark, even though it was still the middle of the day. Snow began to fall, not in soft, gentle flakes, but in a thick, swirling curtain. It was hard to see anything. The beautiful, quiet mountains were now a wild and scary place. The snowstorm was a surprise. It came without any warning. Maya pulled her scarf up over her nose and shouted to Roko to be careful. But her voice was lost in the sound of the wind. Roko lowered his head and pulled harder, trying to find a safe path through the blinding snow. The sled bounced and slid on the uneven ground, which was now hidden under the fresh, deep powder. The world was a mess of white and grey, and it was impossible to tell which way they were going. Then it happened. The sled hit a hidden rock, a hard bump that they did not see coming. The old wood of the sled cracked loudly, and the whole thing tipped over to one side. Maya was thrown off the sled and into the deep, soft snow. She landed with a thud, and the world went sideways. The warm blankets and the flask of soup scattered around her, quickly getting buried by the falling snow. She felt a sharp pain in her leg, a pain that made it hard to think clearly for a moment. Maya tried to stand up, but the snow was so deep it was like being trapped in a giant pile of cold, wet sugar. Every time she tried to push herself up, she sank deeper. The pain in her leg was getting worse, and she was starting to feel very cold and very scared. She called out Roko's name, her voice small and trembling against the roar of the storm. The wind howled back at her, and for a terrifying second she felt completely and utterly alone in the middle of the wild, angry storm. Roko heard Maya's cry, even with the wind screaming in his ears. He had been thrown a little way from the sled, but he quickly shook the snow from his thick fur. He turned and saw Maya struggling, half buried in the snowdrift. His bright blue eyes, usually so happy, were now serious and focused. He knew his friend was in trouble. He did not hesitate. He did not feel fear. All he felt was a powerful need to get to her, to help her, to make sure she was safe. His heart was full of courage. He ran to her side, his strong legs pushing through the deep snow. He licked her face, his warm tongue a comfort against her cold skin. He nudged her with his nose as if to say, "I am here. Do not worry, I will help you." Maya reached out and held onto his fur. Just feeling him there gave her a little bit of hope, but she was hurt and cold, and she could not get up on her own. The snow was still falling hard, and they were in great danger. Roko seemed to understand everything. He knew they could not stay there. He started to dig. He used his paws with incredible speed and strength, throwing clouds of snow behind him. He was trying to clear a path for Maya, to free her from the deep drift that held her captive. He worked without stopping, his breath coming in steamy puffs in the cold air. He was a digging machine, a determined hero on a very important mission. He would not give up, not until Maya was free. Slowly, carefully, he cleared enough snow for Maya to move. He then nudged his strong body under her arm, offering his support. Leaning on her brave dog, Maya was able to pull her injured leg out of the snow. She was weak and shivering, but Rocco was strong and steady. He stood beside her like a furry, living crutch. He looked at her with his intelligent eyes, and she knew he had a plan. He was going to lead her to safety, and she trusted him with all her heart. Rocco began to walk, pulling Maya gently along with him. He moved slowly and carefully, making sure she could keep up. He seemed to know exactly where he was going, even in the confusing white world of the storm. He led her away from the broken sled and toward a wall of dark rocks. Tucked away behind a curtain of snow-covered branches was a small opening. It was a cave, a dark and quiet shelter, hidden from the wind and the falling snow. It was their hope for survival. Inside the cave, it was much quieter. The sound of the howling wind was muffled, and the air was still. It was not warm, but it was dry and safe. Maya sank to the floor of the cave, exhausted and relieved. The pain in her leg was still there, but the fear in her heart started to fade away. Rocco stayed close to her side. He licked her hands and face again, checking to make sure she was okay. He was her guardian, watching over her in their little stone sanctuary. Rocco knew that Maya was very cold. Her body was shaking, and her lips were turning blue, so he did something wonderful. He curled his big, warm body around her, pressing against her as closely as he could. His thick, husky fur was like the warmest blanket in the world. He shared his own body heat with her, a gift of life and friendship. Maya wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his soft fur. She could feel his steady heartbeat, a comforting rhythm in the quiet cave. Slowly, warmed by her loyal friend, Maya's shivering stopped. The deep cold began to leave her body, and a feeling of drowsy peace took its place. She closed her eyes, feeling safe for the first time since the storm had started. Before she drifted off to sleep, she whispered, "Thank you, Rocco. You are my hero." Rocco just nudged her gently with his nose, his work done. He had saved his best friend, and now he would watch over her until the storm passed and the sun came out again.